You ever scroll through your feed, see a photo, a headline, or a casually dropped coming out post, and literally stop breathing for a second? Yeah, that moment. The "wait, he's gay" gasp that hits like a plot twist you didn't see coming. In this episode of Rainbow Spotlight, we're diving into 5 stars who shook the internet just by living their truth. Some were queer-coded for years, others had fan bases fully convinced they were straight. But all of them caused one collective jaw-dropping double-take. Whether they came out softly or were pushed too soon, these moments weren't just shocking. They sparked conversations about identity, pressure, and the power of visibility. Where were you when you found out? Drop your "wait, what" moment in the comments, because today we're reliving 5 reveals that broke timelines. Kit Connor, the soft boy king who deserved more time. When Heartstopper premiered on Netflix in 2022, Kit Connor instantly became the internet's favorite soft boy. As Nick Nelson, he was the golden retriever rugby lad with a secret crush, a tender heart, and eyes that said more than words ever could. The chemistry, the yearning, the "am I, maybe" moment that felt so real, it hit like truth. And then came the questions. Is Kit Connor gay in real life? He plays it too well. He has to be one of us. The fandom didn't just speculate, they obsessed. The kind of parasocial deep dive that only Gen Z can pull off. They combed through old tweets, red carpet interviews, Instagram follows. His silence, once a personal boundary, suddenly became a target. And then, like a plot twist no one actually wanted, it happened. In October 2022, Kit tweeted, "Back for a minute, I'm bi. Congrats for forcing an 18-year-old to out himself. I think some of you missed the point of the show. Bye." The gasp wasn't excitement, it was heartbreak. Yes, the internet had asked the question, "Wait, he's gay?" But no one was supposed to force the answer. Kit didn't come out on his own terms. He was pressured, picked apart, held to an impossible standard of public honesty that even adults struggle with. And what made it so tragic was that his character, Nick, was literally a story about coming out when you're ready. About safety, choice, the timing. The very thing Heartstopper stood for had been stripped from its lead actor in real time. And yet, even through the pressure, the fallout, the noise, Kit's words stood tall. Simple, honest, brave. He didn't turn it into a headline. He didn't milk it for attention. He just said it, then stepped back. It was raw, unfiltered, and very real. That moment cemented him as more than just a rising star. It made him a symbol of how messy, painful, and public queerness can still be, especially when the world demands answers before you're ready. He continues to show up, with quiet strength. In interviews, he sets boundaries. In photo shoots, he experiments with style, confidence, masculinity. He's becoming something rare, a queer Gen Z icon who's not defined by spectacle, but by survival. Kit Connor didn't owe anyone a label, but in giving one under duress, he reminded the world of one crucial truth. No one should have to prove their queerness to be believed. Drop a 4 if you felt that tweet in your chest, and drop a candle if you wish Kit had been given more time to just be a kid. Omar Rudberg, the pop prince who never said the words, but still spoke to us. All. Some gay icons never say the words. They just raise an eyebrow, unbutton a shirt, and walk onto the screen like they've already been claimed. Omar Rudberg is one of them. As Simon in Young Royals, Omar didn't just play a queer teen in love, he embodied it. From the moment he looked across that choir room at Prince Wilhelm, something shifted. The internet didn't just ship it, they melted. His performance was vulnerable, raw, magnetic, and deeply real. And then came the questions. Is Omar gay in real life? Wait, he's not out? So what is he exactly? That's when the gasp came. Not from shock at a coming out, but from realizing there wasn't one. Omar has never publicly labeled his sexuality. He flirts with androgyny, wears crop tops and pearls, sings heartbreak ballads about men, and plays one of the most beloved gay characters in Gen Z TV. But he's never once said, "I'm gay," and that in itself is powerful. Omar has mastered the art of fluid energy. He knows what he's giving, and he gives it unapologetically. On stage, in interviews, on TikTok, he exists in a space between labels, not dodging queerness, but refusing to let it define or limit him. In a world obsessed with clarity, he's made ambiguity sexy. And that ambiguity, it made the internet gasp. Not because we needed confirmation, but because we already felt the truth in his art, in his gaze, in the way he sings love songs without changing the pronouns. Omar never came out, but he never hid either. What makes him a modern queer icon isn't a statement, it's presence. Soft, radiant, emotionally honest, he made millions feel seen without saying a single label out loud. And for so many LGBTQ+ fans, especially younger ones, he represents something revolutionary. You don't need to explain yourself to be loved. You don't need to define yourself to be real. Omar gives us a vision of queerness that isn't boxed, burdened, or even fully spoken. It just is. He's the star who made the internet ask, "Wait, he's gay," and then sit quietly with the realization that maybe it doesn't matter. Because whoever he is, he's ours. Drop a 5 if Omar Rudberg ever made you question your label in the best way. And drop A if you think ambiguity has never looked hotter. Tyler Blackburn, the heartthrob who made bisexual go viral. Tyler Blackburn wasn't just a pretty little liar. He was the one fans were crushing on the hardest. As Caleb Rivers, he played the mysterious hacker boyfriend of Hannah Marin, brooding through every scene with tousled hair, leather jackets, and exactly the right amount of emotional repression. Basically, peak straight fantasy for teenage girls across the world. So when Tyler came out as bisexual in 2019, the internet gasped. And not because it was scandalous, but because it was so far from what anyone expected, yet somehow made total sense in hindsight. In an interview with The Advocate, Tyler shared that he had always been attracted to both men and women, but grew up believing he had to just be straight to survive in Hollywood. For years, he stayed silent, terrified of being reduced, rejected, or outed. His roles reinforced that fear, masculine, edgy, quietly desirable. But off camera, he was tired of hiding. And when he finally said it, just a few simple words, it hit the internet like a soft earthquake. "I'm queer. I'm bisexual." What made it iconic wasn't the drama, it was the relatability. His story wasn't filled with fireworks, it was filled with pressure, doubt, and internalized shame. And that made it land deeper for a generation of bi and queer men who had never seen someone like him say those words. For years, bisexuality, especially in men, was erased, doubted, or fetishized. Tyler coming out didn't just add another gay celeb to the list. He expanded the map of what queerness could look like. Strong, attractive, successful, and still soft enough to admit confusion. He also didn't pivot into queer roles or change his public persona overnight. He stayed himself, still hot, still stylish, still playing straight love interests, but now with a layer of openness that made everything feel a little more real. And yes, the fan reaction was chaos. Some people felt betrayed, others felt seen, and many just started scrolling back through PLL clips wondering, wait, how did I miss this energy before? But the truth is, you didn't miss it. You just weren't taught to recognize it. Tyler didn't become a queer icon by performing queerness. He did it by finally telling the truth and letting people decide how they felt about it. He challenged the idea that queer men have to look or act a certain way to be valid, and he did it with style. Drop a 1 if Tyler Blackburn's coming out ever made you rethink bisexuality. And drop a fire if you used to have a serious PLL crush and feel completely vindicated now. Connor Jessup, the Netflix sweetheart, who came out with zero warning, but all the feels. Connor Jessup didn't come out in a blockbuster film, a dramatic YouTube video, or a viral TikTok. He came out in a soft, thoughtful Instagram caption on Canada Day of all days, paired with a quiet smile and a rainbow emoji. For a certain corner of the internet, it felt like a glitch in the algorithm. Wait, the guy from Lock and Key? That Connor? He's gay? Yes. And in hindsight, it explained everything. Long before Netflix stardom, Connor had already built a career playing complex, emotionally wounded boys. Whether it was in Falling Skies or indie films like Closet Monster, he had a way of pulling viewers in, not through bravado, but vulnerability. He was never in your face, but always felt a little different. And that difference? It finally had a name. In 2019, Connor posted a letter to himself and his fans. "I knew I was gay when I was 13, but I hid it for years. I'm a white, cis man from an upper-middle-class liberal family. I'm lucky, and yet I still held it in." No theatrics, just truth, and it hit hard, especially for queer youth who saw themselves in his quiet, bookish charm. What made it shocking wasn't that he came out, it was how invisible the queerness seemed to mainstream fans before that moment. He wasn't coded, he wasn't flamboyant, he was simply soft, thoughtful, polite, which, ironically, is queer culture at its finest. Once he was out, though, something shifted. He started posting more confidently, sharing snippets of his relationship with actor Miles Heiser, quoting queer poets, wearing nail polish to press tours, not rebranding, just releasing the parts of himself he'd held back. Connor became a symbol of quiet resistance, a reminder that not all queer people come out screaming. Some do it like a whisper and still change everything. He also redefined gay masculinity for a lot of young people watching. You didn't have to be loud, labeled, or legible to be real. You could still be soft-spoken and artistic and valid as hell. And of course, the internet fell in love all over again. Fans started analyzing Lock and Key differently, rewatching his emotional scenes, reading subtext into every furrowed brow and longing stare. He went from that cute Netflix guy to gay comfort character overnight. But most importantly, he became visible in a world that often misses people like him. Drop a 2 if Connor Jessup's coming out made you feel seen in the quietest, safest way. And drop A if his softness ever made you stare at the screen a little longer than you meant to. Mason Alexander Park, the non-binary star who made everyone ask, "Wait, he's gay too?" When Mason Alexander Park stepped onto the screen in The Sandman as Desire, the living embodiment of lust, they didn't just play androgyny. They owned it, commanded it, made it feel both divine and dangerously real. And in that moment, half the internet gasped, "Wait, is this actor gay, or what's happening?" It wasn't confusion out of disrespect. It was fascination. Because Mason didn't fit into any one category, and they never tried to. Mason identifies as non-binary and uses they/them pronouns. But here's where things get interesting. They're also openly queer and very often read as gay by audiences, especially when they lean into mask energy and red carpets, interviews, or musical roles. And the internet, it couldn't quite compute it at first. Before Netflix brought them to global screens, Mason had already made waves in the theater world, starring in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, a queer punk rock opera where gender and sexuality collide in glitter and chaos. But The Sandman was the true game changer. It wasn't just visibility, it was otherworldly validation. Their portrayal of desire wasn't male or female, it was magnetic, dangerous, alluring, like a Bowie character reborn through a Gen Z lens. And naturally, queer fans knew what was up. But many straight-coded viewers had a collective, "Wait, that's a gay actor" moment. Or more accurately, "Wait, how does all of this fit together?" And that's what made it iconic. Mason doesn't explain. They exist. They flirt with the camera. They wear pearls and tailored suits. They break rules on every level and make space for others while doing it. Their very presence is resistance to the idea that queer has to be defined, boxed, or palatable. But here's the twist. Mason is also deeply connected to gay identity. In interviews, they've spoken openly about dating men, being attracted to masc energy, and growing up being labeled gay before they had language for who they really were. In many ways, their queer masculinity still exists, just within a broader, more fluid framework. So, yes, technically Mason isn't just gay. But the gasp-worthy moment comes from how they trigger that recognition. The vibe, the confidence, the unapologetic glamour. It's queer masculinity elevated into something surreal, theatrical, and free. And that moment of confusion the internet had, that was growth. Because it forced people to confront the limits of their definitions and realize that sometimes icon status doesn't ask permission. It just is. Drop a 3 if Mason ever made you rethink what being gay or queer can look like in 2025. And drop a star if their performance in The Sandman unlocks something deep in your brain. We get it. Some came out with a whisper. Some were pushed before they were ready. Some never said a word, but still made us feel seen. These 5 moments weren't just shocking reveals. They were reflections of how much we assume, how hungry we are for representation, and how visibility still comes with pressure. So now we want to hear from you. Which one hit you the hardest? Which reveal made you pause and go, wait, what? Drop a number 1 to 5 in the comments. Tell us which gasp moment stayed with you. This is Rainbow Spotlight. We don't just tell queer stories, we celebrate the ones you didn't see coming.